This is a People First Radio podcast.
Are life sentences just? Should doctors only prescribe weight loss medications to people looking for them if they can identify a clear medical need? Is it morally wrong for parents to pursue medical procedures like cochlear implants for their young, non-consenting children if the procedures are ones that some adults reasonably refuse to undergo? These are some of the questions Canadian youth have been weighing in the Ethics Bowl. It's a team-based competition that sees a group of, in this case, high schoolers forced to stake out a position on a potentially controversial subject. They have to present their reasoning, and then their opponents and a group of judges are given the chance to ask questions, to respond, to challenge them on certain points, and present alternative ideas. Unlike a traditional debate, the opposing team isn't forced to argue the opposite position. After the first subject in each round, the teams switch roles and dive into a new one. After that, the judges score the competition and pick a winning team. Sunday, February 15th, a regional Ethics Bowl competition took place in Nanaimo at Vancouver Island University. Students there were competing to move on to provincials with the ultimate goal of making the Canadian Nationals at the Human Rights Museum in Winnipeg. I paid a visit to the Ethics Bowl where I spoke with organizer Carolyn Swanson, a VIU philosophy professor. So in a traditional debate, there might be there's the moot, the topic you're discussing, and then one team has to spend the debate arguing for that. One team has to spend the debate arguing against that. The Ethics Bowl, it's somehow different?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, teams can agree on an issue, and we encourage teams to develop their own position on the issue. So they're not given a specific position, here, defend this. So it is different from the traditional debate. And it is like in each of these rounds, you've got a lead team, and then you've got a team providing commentary. And they're just assessed on how well they do, how they engage with the issue, and then the commentary, the kind of insightful comments that they'll provide the other team. So it's not so much about winning a debate, but thinking through something collaboratively and responding to questions and comments from the other team and also from the judges.
So this is a competition. There are a number of different teams here that get scored. One team will come away on top. Is the judging based on sort of how eloquently someone makes their points and how eloquent the points themselves are? It's eloquence, but it's about doing the background research. It's about really addressing the key question about working collaboratively as a team, and also how they learn from the other team's comments. So, I wouldn't say it was all about eloquently presenting points, but coming up with good reasons for their position. And there are 10 topics on offer today, things like the prevalence of weight loss drugs such as Ozempic and some of the ethical questions around those, topics like people receiving social assistance benefits, what kind of restrictions might it be possible to consider putting on those benefits, things like should prospective parents be licensed? How do the topics get chosen?
Well, actually, that's all done by Ethics Bowl Canada. So we've got a national organization, and people sit down and go through these, come up with these various topics. And then all we do as regional organizers is come up with one specific question, because there's usually different dimensions to the cases the students are prepping for, but they don't know the actual question until the day. Yeah.
So someone is going to move on from here to a provincial, and then from that provincial, a team or a couple of teams are going to move on to Winnipeg. Is at the Human Rights Museum in Winnipeg is where the big kind of national ethics bowl will take place?
That's exactly right. So that occurs at the end of April. So yeah, next step is we'll send 2 winners to the provincials, which should be at SFU in Vancouver, and then from there 2 teams will go. Could be ours, may not be, but they're the top 2 winning teams of the provincials will go on to the nationals in Winnipeg.
And what do you view as the goal of the Ethics Bowl? What will make this regional Ethics Bowl at VIU a success in your eyes?
I think if it helps students think more carefully about issues, and if they learn to research issues instead of just developing gut reactions, if they learn to pay closer attention to what their teammates are saying and some of the questions that people might challenge them on, the other team or the judges, and just thinking reflectively, and hopefully they'll do that in other aspects of their lives.
Is there an angle to this, that this idea of a debate, you are assigned a position at the beginning, you're kind of entrenched in that position, there's no opportunity to change your mind, really? Like, to win a traditional debate, you just have to make the best case you can for your side of the argument. When I think of the idea you've presented with the Ethics Bowl, or like when I think of real life, like sometimes maybe that's not the healthiest position to just sort of dig your heels in on something no matter what. Whereas the Ethics Bowl, as you've presented, it's like, well, you're trying to make the best point you can. Maybe the other team, says something you for the most part agree with, but you have a way to make it better. Like that aspect of it seems really fascinating to me. Is that kind of the big thing at the heart of this?
I think so. I mean, it encourages students to figure out what they think about an issue, which I think is an important part of it, right? I don't dismiss altogether like the traditional debate model. Sometimes it can be good to be assigned a position that maybe you don't take, because you learn to be a little more sympathetic to the other side. You realize, oh, okay, actually there is some merits going for the. So I can understand that as well, but I like our approach because you can still respond to challenges, yes, but it gets students figuring out where they stand on an issue, and I think there's merit just in that.
Carolyn Swanson, chair of the philosophy department at VIU and an organizer of the Regional Ethics Bowl. After our conversation, I took in a round at that Ethics Bowl. Students from Nanaimo's Dover Bay Secondary took on a team of students from Ladysmith Secondary. In the first half of the round, the Dover Bay team staked out a position on the use of weight loss drugs for purely aesthetic reasons. In the second half, Ladysmith had to speak about the ethics of deaf parents deciding whether or not to have their children undergo surgery to receive cochlear implants. After answering questions from the judges and their opponents, Dover Bay came away with the victory. During the lunch break that followed, I caught up with a member of their team.
I'm Jack. I'm a 12th grade student at Dover Bay.
We have just come out of the second of today's Ethics Bowl. What do you call an Ethics Bowl, like debate or battle or question? What are the rounds called?
They're rounds, and the goal of that is to reach a greater understanding on the topic. So it's less of a debate and more of a discussion between 2 teams who may or may not have opposing viewpoints.
How long have you been preparing for today's events? When did you get the topics?
The topics were released in October. We started about the deadline for registering teams. So as one could prepare often more, you can't prepare too much. We probably should have prepared more, but we've come to the day. Can't change it now.
Okay, and the debate, the round we were just watching, 2 topics there up for discussion. The first of which was, should drugs like Ozempic, semaglutide, should those be made available to people just looking to lose weight who are already kind of at a healthy weight. How did you approach that one? How do you arrive at what your position is going to be on something like that?
Well, really researching it, they provide with a lot of resources, and a lot of resources are readily available as well. So really researching each perspective and really acknowledging them as well. So spending a lot of time with it, even though we didn't spend a lot of time with it. But there are benefits to both. There are benefits to yes, there's benefits to no, and really kind of getting that middle ground of both answering the question but also respecting other viewpoints as well.
And how much with all of the questions does, the fact that this is a competition, you're being judged, you're trying to advance to the next round, how much does that come into play versus, this is my own kind of personal view on a question?
It's really important, the team aspect of it, both in what we believe and consent, like as a group, what we believe in. So really ensuring that everybody's on the same page. I found in previous competitions, contradiction takes a lot of points away. So ensuring everybody is on the same page and really working together as a team. That's kind of the main component, because while we are a team made up of multiple people, we are one entity in terms of this competition.
And have your own views on any of these topics evolved because of looking at them? Because the Ethics Bowl was coming up?
Yeah. And while as an individual I'm aware of a lot of these topics, going further in depth has really allowed me to understand the other perspective that might be prevalent. Whereas a lot of social media kind of pushes a lot of one side in a lot of scenarios, being able to look at an opposing viewpoint and kind of either both acknowledging it but also understanding why that viewpoint is being believed is kind of really important to getting to a greater consensus.
And then how much of what you're arguing do you feel like on any given topic is Jack arguing what he really deeply believes in versus this is a team's perspective, this is a consensus we've arrived at?
I would like to say that most of it is a consensus of the team. In past events, and in a couple of these ones as well, I don't directly perhaps agree with something I'm presenting, but the facts, the evidence, and the majority of the team believe that stance. So it's kind of more important, what can we defend less than what I believe in.
What makes something that you're going to defend? I feel like it can be a position you can defend if it's something other than, this is what I deeply believe is right.
Well, you kind of start with what you believe is deeply right, and then in a sense, you kind of work back from that, but also you do look at other perspectives. And so we kind of start with, what do we know? What do we believe in as a group? And then we back those up with ethical principles or philosophical principles that also agree with it. Because philosophy is so wide. You could find something that supports the most niche of topics, but maybe there's not enough of it to support. So often the widely accepted kind of position has the most information, the most evidence that backs it up, but there are obviously reasonable conjectures to any position.
I also spoke with a pair of students from the Ladysmith secondary team in the wake of that Ethics Bowl round.
So I'm Henry Hunter England. I'm in grade 11 and I go to Ladysmith Secondary School.
Mason, grade 11, Ladysmith Secondary.
And I just took in a round that you all participated in. How was that for you? Tell me how you're feeling coming out of the Ethics Bowl round 2.
Well, it's a really unique experience. I'm glad to be here. This is Ladysmith Secondary School's first ever Ethics Bowl, at least in the entire time I've been there, and I'm in grade 11 now. So it's really quite interesting. It's really entertaining, and I'm happy to be here.
What made you both decide to spend a Sunday afternoon at VIU doing the Ethics Bowl?
The experience. It's been super cool looking at other schools and their views on political things and such that. Really, really fun. We kind of got cooked, though. I'm not going to lie. It's been bad, but...
Yeah.
There are 10 topics that are on offer today. Are there any that you have found particularly interesting? Are there any that you have really enjoyed thinking about or maybe learned something new about?
Well, to be honest, I found all of them so far really quite interesting, and I just think it's incredible how two teams can be given the same sheet of paper and come up with wildly differing opinions and ideas. So I think that's the incredible part. But all the topics have been great.
What do you think you're taking away from the Ethics Bowl years down the road?
Do not study the day before. That's not a good idea. When they say it's 3 months out, make sure you realize that they gave you 3 months to study for a reason. No, it's really entertaining. Would highly recommend.
One part of this is it's not a debate, right? And I'm wondering, like, what is that like for you? What do you see as the difference? What do you think people need to know about that part?
Well, it's not a debate, as you said. So it's you're kind of looking to come up with the most morally correct solution to help the most amount of people. So it's kind of good people getting together to help out more good people. It's really an incredible experience.
And I think the morally correct thing to let you do now is go and get some of that pizza. Thank you so much for speaking with me.
Awesome, thank you.
Towards the end of the Ethics Bowl lunch break, I caught up with another student getting ready for the day's third round.
Tammy Jalawo, and I go to Nanaimo Christian School.
And is this your first experience here at the Ethics Bowl this year?
It actually is, but Nanaimo Christian School was in the Ethics Bowl last year as well.
And how has it been? So we're speaking, it's lunch, you've had a couple of rounds. How has it gone? How are you feeling about everything?
The overall environment has been much more relaxed than I thought it would be, but it's kind of challenging. You have to really be on your toes, but it's a good environment. It's really fun doing it.
How have you been approaching some of the questions? What has the preparation been like? Are there any that maybe like stuck out to you of the 10 topics being debated here?
Our group, we regularly confer like within our breaks, and like when we have time to, we like to talk and kind of like devise our plan. But usually I would say the case that sticks out to me the most is the case about life imprisonment. I think that one's really interesting, and it has a lot to do with our climate today.
Is there any kind of point that you're especially keen on making in that one, which is coming up still after lunch?
I would like to make the point that we should kind of aim to make it so that the communities that are a little more vulnerable can have the opportunity to succeed instead of having to resort to a life of crime.
And maybe one last one for you before I let you go, as lunch is about to wrap up. What would you want people to know about? We're hearing about this ethics bowl, how this is different from like what people might think of as a traditional debate. How do you think that's going to play out on something like talking about life imprisonment?
I think the ethics bowl is different from a debate because it's more about sharing ideas and not exactly about winning. Like we can all kind of, even if you do agree with the other person's point, you just get to share your ideas and kind of come up with a mutual ground.
You're listening to People First Radio. We just heard from students taking part in the Ethics Bowl regional competition at Vancouver Island University Sunday, February 15th. The Ethics Bowl is kind of like a debate, but it's a bit different. Two teams are tasked with taking positions on potentially controversial or morally ambiguous subjects. They get scored by judges on the strength of their arguments and how well they present them. They also get the opportunity to ask their competitors questions and to challenge them on certain points, but they aren't forced to disagree. During Sunday's lunch break, I also had the opportunity to speak with one of the Ethics Bowl judges.
I'm Jem Erkley. I work at Simon Fraser University in Burnaby as the Ethics Bowl coordinator. I'm also the co-general manager of Ethics Bowl Canada.
And you're here at Vancouver Island University for the regionals of the Ethics Bowl. I just attended a round. You were the judge or one of the judges in that round. Can you tell me about that maybe first off? What is it like judging these competitions?
I will say it's a lot of fun. Before this became my job, I was a volunteer. And I volunteered as a judge, and that's really what hooked me because it's really exciting to see like really intelligent high school like teenagers talk about these really complex issues. They always have really interesting perspectives. It also like restores a little bit of my faith in the future of humanity, just to see them like be so intelligent and articulate and have so well-reasoned opinions. Yeah.
What kind of things are you looking for when you're judging?
Great. Yeah. So because the Ethics Bowl is a philosophy competition, we are looking for a little bit of like, is your argument clear? Did you convince the judges? We're looking for like a clear thesis that is supported. But we're also looking for something else because the Ethics Bowl is a conversation with other teams and the judges. We're looking if it looks like you're learning from the other teams and learning from the conversation. So we're looking for if someone made a good point, how do you accommodate that? How do you adjust your position in response to that?
There are 10 topics on offer here at today's event. A number of them, well, I guess by their very nature, they're designed to be kind of like controversial. You can have a different stance on them. How has your view on some of these subjects evolved over the course of maybe the day so far?
Oh, for sure. That's really interesting. I also work with the Case Development Committee. We have a committee of people, usually philosophy professors or subject matter experts across Canada, writing these case studies. So I wrote one of the cases that was on de-extinction and bringing the woolly mammoth back. So there was this interesting conversation. I was really skeptical of the value of bringing it back, but the students were talking about our responsibility to nature and stewardship and how we can fulfill our duties to nature. And that was really interesting to hear because that's something that I thought maybe would be interesting to hear about. And I love just like going more in depth in those conversations. So it's been really interesting.
What does an ethics bowl champion look like?
Oh, that's a great question. An ethics bowl champion is someone who can articulate complex ideas on really controversial issues in a way that's really considerate, in a way that's really thoughtful, but also engage in discussions with people who have different opinions in a way that's really respectful and learns from that conversation, such that when you leave that conversation, both parties have learned something. Even if you haven't completely changed your mind, you have become more informed.
What can the world outside of Ethics Bowl learn or take away from the Ethics Bowl?
I think a lot, and I might be biased here because I do love this organization and the work. I think one of the main things is obviously these conversations are really tough, and it's really hard to have reasonable conversations with people we disagree with, but there is a genuine value in engaging in those really tough conversations. So I think the Ethics Bowl really prepares students for those conversations where they might have different values, but they still have a conversation and they negotiate and learn from differing viewpoints. And I think that's something we could use more of in the world.
Can you tell me how that plays out on the level of this being different than what people might think of when they hear a debate? So maybe to use a concrete example, one of the questions in the last round was about using semaglutide, things like Ozempic, for aesthetic reasons in a world where, you know, there was enough that shortages weren't a concern or anything. How does that question play out differently at the Ethics Bowl than it would if that were just like a debate point and one team had to argue for it and one team had to argue against it?
Yeah, so in a debate, you're really trying to dig your heels in and then try to disprove the other team. But in the Ethics Bowl, we acknowledge that there is shades of gray, and in that round, for example, the other team didn't fully disagree, but they had some questions about how it can be implemented, what were some of the values guiding this decision. So they asked about that. So even though they didn't fully disagree, there was still, the conversation kept moving on, and we learned more about what affects, what should we consider, what are some of the different stakeholders, what are some of the different reasons people might use weight loss drugs, how should we weigh them. So all of those things were considered. If it was a debate, then the other team would be forced into a position of saying, we disagree with you, you're wrong, your position sucks. But in the Ethics Bowl, you're able to say what you think and go in deeper, as opposed to just, shutting down the conversation. You're opening the conversation up.
What do you hope the ripple effect of having all of these high schoolers across the country debating all of these, considering the ethical implications of all of these important questions will be? How do you think the universe where this happens is different than the universe where everything else is more or less identical, but there is no Ethics Bowl?
Well, the dream is like a less divided society, right? Where we can have different opinions and express them without being inflammatory and have conversations and learn from each other. Obviously, the dream is like someone becomes the prime minister or something, and they did the ethics bowl, so they're like the most reasonable, conciliatory person ever. That like having these constructive conversations around important issues.
I'm also kind of wondering about the distinction between, like, if I'm taking part in the ethics bowl, how do I distinguish between what I feel is really right and like what I think is going to score me points? And is there a distinction?
Yeah, that is, I think, an important decision that every team has to make. But when we train the judges, we do instruct them that they should not be scoring the teams based on how much they agree with the teams. So Ethics Bowl isn't a competition about which team do I agree with. It is about what team used this conversation the most effectively to learn, to bring in new facts to life, or just consider different perspectives. So even though a team should have their own position very clearly, they shouldn't necessarily be trying to like convince everyone. They should just be trying to cover and acknowledge the complexity of the issue.
Is there an example from your life you can remember of you're sitting in watching an ethics bowl duel, for lack of a better term, and someone makes a point and it's kind of stuck with you ever since and changed the way you've thought about something? Is there anything else you'd like to let people know about the ethics bowl?
For sure. This is not just in British Columbia, across Canada. It's like a growing organization, a growing movement, and listeners or anyone else, the members of the community, can get involved, or they can watch matches, or if they know like children going through school, they can direct them towards the ethics bowl. It's just a way of making the society better, and everyone should be involved in that.
Jem Erkley is co-general manager of Ethics Bowl Canada.
People First Radio, People First Media, and People First Stories are community media projects of Vancouver Island Mental Health Society and are produced in Nanaimo, British Columbia. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of Vancouver Island Mental Health Society or its broadcast, podcast, and social media partners.